Dave Canales, Bryce Young, a recipe for disaster. What do you think, Ian?
Yeah, take one step forward, two steps back. So
Let's just go ahead and get it going. We'll get into it. You ready, Ian?
I'm ready.
All right.
Touchdown, Carolina! You're listening to the Buzz Pound.
Smith scores, and the Carolina Panthers win in overtime.
A Queen City sports podcast covering your Charlotte Hornets and Carolina Panthers.
Halliburton, nowhere to go! LaMelo's done it! LaMelo's done it! Hornets win! Here comes LaMelo.
Here are your hosts, Ian Blair and Cam Gardner.
Buzzbound, thank you for joining for season 2, episode 5. Today, we will be covering a massive blowout loss to the New England Patriots in week 4. Ian, you want to kick it off, brother?
Yeah, man. I wasn't fortunately for me, I wasn't able to watch really any of the game on Sunday because I was at work, but yeah, I from what I understand, it seems like our special teams was just a disaster and kind of got the crap show kind of started on Sunday. Especially giving up I think believe it was like an 87-yard return to Marcus Jones. And then I believe he had like three really good returns on special teams, and I think that's really what killed us. I don't, I guess we just weren't able to put together anything from, looking at the box score and kind of the team stats and everything like that. It's just frustrating. I mean, 42-13 against the Patriots, who are not one of the top teams in the league, especially off the big win last week against the Falcons, 30-0. We lose 42-13. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know really what to say. I thought we were going to take a step forward, and instead we took a step back. I mean, and we talked about it on last week's pod. It was important for this team to take last week as a stepping stone, and we took two steps back. So, I mean, that's just the the Panthers, the David Tepper Panthers. I saw a stat where he had like 30, only won like 30 games, 37 games, like 80 something losses since he bought the team. So it's just I don't even know what to say, man. It's frustrating. It's really frustrating.
It all starts at the top, but it's a dysfunction all around. And you could see it like yourself. I didn't get to watch the game all the way through. I was traveling that day, but I did have it playing on my Bluetooth, just listening. And it definitely seems like there's a big dysfunction, not only between Bryce Young and coach Dave Canales, but it seems like with the rest of his staff. There's a whole thing about him being the play caller and such. Not sure what's going on between him and the rest of his staff, such as the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, but something isn't there. Something isn't working. Um, I don't know what it is, man. Like you mentioned earlier, the special teams was terrible. It was the Marcus Jones show. I will go into a little bit of stats here on that aspect of things because that was a big portion of this game for us. But we allowed an 87-yard punt return for touchdown New England, Marcus Jones. A 61 punt return setting up a touchdown, Marcus Jones. And overall, he had 167 punt return yards allowed, which was a Patriots franchise record. And even on our end of special teams, kicker Ryan Fitzgerald missed an extra point after the first touchdown and later missed a 55-yard field goal attempt. So overall, man, it was horrible. Like I saw those plays, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It Whew, man, I don't even know what to say anymore. It's almost humorous at this point. You go from a 30-0 win last week, and there were a lot of people said it was a fluke. A lot of people said it wasn't something for us to be super proud of. I was happy about it personally, just the way we started off the season. And like I said, we took two steps back. We're right back there. And this time it was worse than the Jags loss in week 1. So And Bryce Young, that's a whole nother story. I mean, overall, the whole game was a total collapse. And, the opening drive was so solid. I mean, I know we lost David Moore on the first play of the game, which was unfortunate, but we still made it work. So I'm thinking we were about to have a competitive game because you and I both talked about it. That should have been a game that we could have won. We
Yeah.
talked about that last pod. And, I'm afraid to see what we may do against Miami. I mean, I know they don't have, their star receiver in Tyreek Hill, but no telling what they may do the way we've just played, unless something major happens between now and then. Because even David Canales, head coach, mentioned that they're hoping the roster changes. Don't know what that could be. Don't know what they could do now to really help improve this team. But like I said, there's a big dysfunction between him and Bryce Young, which is really crucial right now. It is killing our team massively.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's just franchise in general. I saw something. We released DJ Johnson today out of the 2023 draft class, and that was Bryce's draft class. I believe there's only one or two players left. I think Bryce might be the only one. He might be out before long. So if you don't draft well, if you don't develop well, you're not going to have success. We don't have, we don't spend money very heavily in free agency. We try to get Milton Williams. He ended up signing with the Patriots. So, you know, something's got to change. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if Dave Canales is going to give up the play calling duties. Brad Idzik, our offensive coordinator, I don't believe he even has play calling experience. He was the wide receiver coach at Tampa when he was with Dave Canales, and he was promoted to our offensive coordinator. So I don't know what they're going to do with the play calling situation because, I could be wrong, but I don't think Brad Idzik has play calling experience on any level. So that probably, might be a problem. And I just Bryce is not consistent at all. He has one good week, he takes two steps back. He is close to being out the door because he's not looking like a franchise quarterback that's going to lead us in any type of way. And yes, we might have play calling issues with Dave Canales, but who takes that? Who takes over play calling duties? I don't think there's anybody on the staff right now that I would have over Dave Canales calling plays. And it's just a dumpster fire. I mean, I hate to say it, but it really is. And just, it's been a rough week with the David Tepper, stat coming out and, the whole winning, mediocrity is unacceptable. I don't even think we're at mediocrity right now as a franchise. I think we're below that. So, I don't know. I just don't know what more we can do. I'm just super frustrated. I wasn't, like I mentioned, I wasn't able to watch a lot of the game. I went back and watched. I mean, Marcus Jones looked like he was playing against a JV squad on the punt return, on Sunday. Breaking tackles, nobody was able to bring him down. We had multiple opportunities to bring him down on that punt return. And I'm just, lost for words. I joked about 8 wins being back last week, which was a joke. And it's definitely just, I don't even know what to say, man. I say it every week. It's like beating a dead horse. I just frustrated, and I want this team to have success, but there's so many holes and so many rough spots of this team that I don't see us having success. Unfortunately, anytime, since sustained success anytime in the near future until drastic things change. And we've fired coaches, we've brought coaches in, I think it was a problem when Dave Canales hired Brad Idzik as an offensive coordinator because he didn't, he was a receivers coach in Tampa. He's Canales' guy, his friend, his buddy. I just don't know, you know, and the fact that we're not able to draft and develop players is also a huge red flag. The fact that we don't have more than two guys from our 2023 draft class still on the roster is a problem. That speaks volumes to either the lack of scouting, the lack of, finding talent and also development because, you're not going to always hit on your draft picks, but a lot of it is development and developing guys and, coaching them up, getting them ready to perform and play at the NFL level. And neither have worked. We haven't been able to scout well and we're not developing well. So we see it with Xavier Legette. I think he showed a lot of talent on film at South Carolina, and it feels like he's regressed. Same with Bryce Young. And there's always players that are not going to pan out at the NFL level. We see it with Johnny Manziel, other players. But I think Bryce had all the tools at Alabama. I even like going back and watching his film at Alabama, he made some really special plays against SEC talent, guys that are playing in the league right now and that are playing well. And it feels like he's regressed. So I don't know, man. That was my rant, but I'm just frustrated with this team. 42-13 against the New England Patriots.
And going back to your comment about, you know, David Tepper and mediocrity, as far as I'm concerned, we've never been at mediocrity under him. I mean, we may have had some better seasons compared to the last two or three with Bryce Young, but I don't think we've ever actually been there with him owning the team, personally. It's, I always say it's one thing being a successful corporate business person, but the business of sports is something totally different. You got to know what you're doing when it comes to hiring. And I know I mentioned dysfunction between Bryce Young and head coach Dave Canales. I will also put Dan Morgan's name up there. I mean, with him being the GM, making those type of, calls for hiring positions like that. I
Mhm.
mean, there must be something dysfunctional there as well. Because there's no reason we should be where we are. And I know those two in particular have a relationship that goes all the way back to I think their Seattle days because Canales was there during if I'm not mistaken, Russell Wilson, no, Geno Smith's development while he was
Mhm.
there. And he helped him develop a little bit. And then obviously down in Tampa with Baker Mayfield. But for being honest, Baker got a little better after he left.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I can't remember who it was today, but I was going down a rabbit hole of listening to other Panther content. People just speak on the game and just overall everything going on. And like I said, I can't remember who it was, but somebody made a valid point that it's 2 points. But I'm gonna go defensive route first because we couldn't stop a thing there. I mean Drake May, Charlotte native, by the way, go Heels. But he had two passing touchdowns and ran a third. We made him look solid, more than solid. He had a good game. I mean, he had a clean pocket pretty much the whole game. Our defense couldn't stop anything at all. But Evero, the defensive coordinator, he wasn't even a Canales hire. He was there during Frank Reich's time.
Yep.
So it's not like that was Dave Canales' guy either. Not like, his offensive coordinator. So that's just someone that he brought in. And if you remember, defensive coordinator Vero was actually his name was getting out there for some head coaching spots.
Hmm.
And he probably thought he was going to get his time to shine in that aspect. And he's still here, being a defensive coordinator. And we see how that's going. But the other point was Dave Canales, before his head coaching hiring at the Panthers, it's not like he had a bunch of other head coaching options besides the
Hmm.
Panthers. And I'm gonna be honest, if he had choices like that, I don't even know if he would have chosen the Panthers, to be honest.
Yeah.
Especially where we were. I mean, I don't know if it's worse now or if it was worse when we had Frank Reich, and Frank Reich didn't even last a full season.
Hmm.
So there's a lot wrong, man. In all areas. I mean, offense, special teams, defense. It's so everything that could go wrong has gone wrong since last week. And, a lot of us thought that it was going to be the start of a turnaround of some sort. I didn't think it would be anything spectacular, but I didn't think it was going to be this, a 42-13 loss. And Bryce Young, go into his stats briefly, 18 out of 30 completed for 150 yards, one touchdown, zero interceptions or turnovers. But eventually he was pulled for Andy Dalton in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Andy Dalton, Red Rifle, got some garbage time minutes, but going back to what you said, I mean, you saw Ben Johnson, the coach of the Bears, now turn down the Panthers job multiple times. I mean, there was two different coaching cycles that he turned down this job, and we're to the point where we're not going to get the cream of the crop guys because there's something going on where coaches don't want to coach. You know, the top talent in the league don't want to coach here. I wish we would have went out and got Sean Payton. I feel like, there were rumors about him wanting the job potentially. I think he would have been a better option than Canales or Frank Reich or, you know, and we see what Ben Johnson's doing in Chicago. I mean, they're not, it's early in the season, but he's really turned a horrible, horrible Chicago team last year into, competing. Obviously, they got blown out against the Lions, which the Lions are a really good team, but they just won last week. They played well the week before. Caleb Williams is kind of starting to turn the corner a little bit, I think. I'm still not sold on him, but you see what a good coach and a good like culture building can, start to do. And yeah, with Avaro, I think our defensive coordinator, he had good defenses in Denver. And when he came to the Panthers, I was like really excited about the hire. I thought it was going to be a really good hire, and he's just regressed. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I don't work in those offices. I'm not on the player personnel department of any organization, but there's something going on behind the scenes where he's regressed. Avaro's regressed on defense every single year he's been in Carolina. I feel like. I mean, last year we gave up the NFL record in points given up, points or yards, probably both in the NFL history. Obviously, having 17 games helps. Records on both offensive and defensive sides of the ball, adding a game. But this defense doesn't look much improved from last year. I mean, like you mentioned, we made the Patriots and Drake May, which I think is a good young quarterback, we made him look like prime Tom Brady. I mean, this team picked in the top five last year in the draft. This Patriots team did, and they just put up 42 points against us. Like, we're not making any progress in the right direction. Yes, the Falcons game was fool's gold. It really was, in my opinion, because the Falcons, bounced back from their really ugly loss against us and beat the Commanders. And, it's nice to get the win. I love winning. I don't want to lose. I don't ever want to lose. I don't want to sit in here every single week and talk about how bad the Panthers have played. But it's just, what can you say as a, just a analyst that analyzes the team? I love our teams. I love the Panthers forever, but it's just frustrating. It sucks being the worst in the league and being, everybody's like homecoming game every week. It's just not fun.
It's the story of being a Panther fan, unfortunately. You always say it best, rinse and repeat. It's that every year, and it seems like it's that every game. Something's got to change. We say it all the time, but we don't know what it is. It's got to be more to it behind the scenes between Tepper up top, obviously, Dan Morgan at the GM role, Dave Canales, his staff, and even with Bryce Young, it just seems like those two especially are not on the same, they're not on the same anything at this point. Like, even just communication on the field doesn't even look like it's there. I don't know what it is, man, but it's hard. And, there's also a big thing about starting young players and older players. And I know there was a big riffraff about that going into this past game. And I believe it was on offense. And they started their younger players, and a lot of them apparently, I guess, defensive coordinator Ivero didn't even want the younger ones to start. He wanted a lot of the veteran players to start. So it just seems like there's a lot of dysfunction all around at different levels. And obviously, that itself is already a red flag. And this team is a red flag within itself. I mean, there's everything is wrong in all aspects, and there's a lot more wrong. I mean, you mentioned it earlier. Panthers released OLB DJ Johnson, who we drafted, if I'm not mistaken, as well in 2023 with Bryce Young.
Yeah.
So now Bryce Young, he's either one or two of that entire draft left on this team.
Yep. And not to cut you off, Cam, but I saw a tweet that DJ Johnson pick, I believe it was one of the picks that we got from the Christian McCaffrey trade was used to either trade up or, it was a factor in the DJ Johnson selection in the 2023 draft. And he was 24 years old coming out of the draft. You turn on the tape, he didn't flash really at Oregon. He came out of Oregon. I remember drafting him, but there's not a whole lot of development going on in this team. As I mentioned, Xavier Leggett, he's regressed. I mean, hopefully Tet can figure it out and continue to play good. And we're not talking about a year two slump. Derek Brown luckily has played well his entire career, but these guys that we're banking on to develop and take that next step are not doing it. We talked about in the offseason about Xavier Leggett taking that next step and potentially being like a really good wide receiver two, wide receiver one in this offense, and he hasn't. And but yeah, I just thought it was interesting. I saw that tweet that DJ Johnson that was used in the Christian McCaffrey. We traded Christian McCaffrey for picks and selected DJ Johnson. So, hindsight's 2020. DJ Johnson could have been turned out to be an insane player, but looking back on it, it age kind of like milk.
Yeah, I mean, like I always say, that's the story of the Panthers fandom or organization as a whole. It's just what can go wrong will go wrong, or age like milk, like you said. And another move that was done today was a wide receiver, Delvin Campbell. He was waived after he had a hamstring injury during that game. So another piece they let go. Um, it's a lot wrong, man. But the only, and it may not even do much for us at this point of where we are, but Adam Schefter announced that he had a list of players that started off the season on IR and are eligible to return after week 4, and our receiver Jalen Coker was on that list, so we may be seeing him next game. It'll be good to see him, but like I said, at this point, I don't know what it may do for us. I mean, we saw the season he had last year for us, pretty solid. Um, so hopefully with him and Ted, they could at least give us something to be. I don't even know if competitive is even worth saying anymore, but at least give us some numbers or something on the stat sheet.
Yeah. I agree, man. One last thing I'll say about this team is, recently a lot on TikTok, they've been popping, the 2015, like, videos about Cam and how he, had talk about when he talks about I think it's over, and he's talking about retiring, and the person he had on his podcast, I guess, said, is it over in your head or in your heart? And he was like, in my head. It'll never be over in my heart. And just the type of competitor Cam was, and watching the highlights from the 2015 season, those teams with Thomas Davis and Luke Kuechly and the leadership we had on this team, Kurt Coleman at safety, Kawan Short, Charles Johnson,
Josh Norman.
Josh Norman, yes, for that one, for the 2015 season. It's a complete 180. Like, and it's sad if you really think about it as Panthers fans. It's a complete 180 from the football we've watched for the past 5 years. And it's so sad just to look back on the highlights and, all those times we had with Cam and all these, great players, Greg Olson, you know, such a good defense. We had such a great defense that was hard nosed. You could count on them to get a stop when you needed it. We were playing in competitive games, and now it's just nothing like that. It's the complete opposite. And, you know, it- it's just sad as a Panthers fan, it's just really like tough to go back and watch. It's bittersweet because I still love those teams, but those were my favorite teams, growing up and living in Charlotte still when we went to the Super Bowl, and just the feeling I had, I remember my mom surprised me with a t-shirt. Because the NFC championship t-shirts, she ended up, I remember coming home from school and she surprised our entire family with NFC championship t-shirts after they beat the Cardinals in the NFC championship when we were going to the Super Bowl. And I remember that vividly, just all those times. And now this team is just bad.
like you said, a complete 180. The feeling just isn't the same. And I mean, even before the Cam days, I mean, yeah, Steve Smith that kept the team relevant. Kept it at that point mediocre. At least we were winning games of some sort. Um, it's just not that anymore. There's no legitimate excitement around there. You don't have that one player that's just that player that's at least known around the league. And all the way to 2015, everybody knows what that year was. That was like a Panthers dream. And the only thing about that whole experience was not winning the Super Bowl. That would have been the cherry on top. Life would have been complete for me, honestly, if they had
Mhm.
won that Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That would have been everything. I wouldn't have cared anymore else that happened after that. Like if we won that Super Bowl and we were all the way we are now, I would have, I'd be upset, but at the same time, we could at least say we had a ring behind our organization's name and a
Mhm.
championship. But these guys, man, it's tough. And we haven't talked about it yet, but I texted it to you, that clip of David Tepper walking, looking
Mhm.
furious.
Yep.
Last time we seen him furious about something, a few moves were made. I know that last time I think it was at a Jags game where he threw
Yes.
his drink,
Yes.
and not long after that, Frank Wright was out the door. Maybe about
Yeah.
2 games afterwards, and oftentimes I still wish we at least gave Steve Wilkes a shot,
Yeah.
especially how he turned that season around. I mean, there were potential playoff conversations that season, the way we turned it around, but I don't know, man. It's just there's not much you can say to defend these guys anymore. It's really not. And whatever it is up top. It's not for the public eye to see what's going on in there. I wish we were tapped in to know what's going on in there, but I guess until David Tepper ever gives up the team, we won't ever see any real progress. And all we know, he may still be making more decisions than we thought. Because remember, Frank Wright wanted Stroud, but Tepper made the decision to get Bryce Young.
Yeah. Yeah, there's all the, I can't claim to know how much, input David Tepper has, but as much as I want him, Panthers fans don't want him or want him to sell the team and everything like that. He's counting his check. He's sitting back and counting his money and seeing how profitable of any organization in the NFL is. They only go up in value, but it's frustrating. We got the Dolphins coming up. I have no expectations for that game. We could go out and somehow squeak by with a win and then get blown out next week. I don't really know with this team. I hope the team plays well and we can get a win, but I don't have any faith in this team. If we do somehow manage to squeak into the playoffs at the end of the year or something like that, I had no faith in this team winning a playoff game. We are so below playoff football when you watch playoff football and how competitive those games are and everything like that. Our team is not ready at all for that. And, the NFC South is weak. I don't know really. The Falcons got the win, obviously, after beating us or losing to us 30-0. So I don't really know what this division is. The Bucks dropped a game to the Eagles, and I don't really think any team in the NFC South can compete in the playoffs come January. I just don't see it happening, but guess we'll see. Like I said, we got the Dolphins next week. I just, as I'm always, just want to win the field position battle, not turn the ball over, because that's how this team wins. That's the only way this team is going to win, is if you play well on special teams, win the field position battle, don't turn the ball over. You're going to put yourself in a spot to win. At least for this team, because we don't really have stars. We don't have the firepower. You really got to win all in all the small things, all the small things. You got to be good on third down. You can't turn the ball over. Like I mentioned, you got to win the field position battle, play good special teams, and you can't let a punt returner run down the field and break like 5 tackles and score. You can't let that happen because then you're not winning the field position battle. Even if you get a shoestring tackle like our punter did, down at like the 13-yard line. I mean, it was pretty easy for them to score at that point, but yeah, hopefully we could manage to win against the Dolphins, but I don't have any expectations.
Well, you would think we had turnover on top of turnover, but Bryce Young had 0 interceptions and
Yeah.
turnovers. So you would think we did with the way that score was, but that just shows how bad this team is.
Yeah.
And our schedule isn't getting any easier. Like you said, I mean, got the Dolphins. We would say that's a winnable game, but at this point, no expectations anymore of any sort. After that, we got the Cowboys, got the Jets, Buffalo Bills, Green Bay, Saints, and that's just to name a few or handful of games after the Dolphins this upcoming week. So I don't have any more words, man. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
it's
don't
it's it's
either.
hard. It's hard.
All I know is you just mentioned Buffalo and Green Bay. Buffalo might put up 80 against us. I wouldn't be surprised if they break some kind of record. Green Bay, we probably won't score a point. They got a good defense, even though the Cowboys kind of diced them up. But I mean, Michael Parsons might have like 12 sacks that game. I don't think anybody on our team could block him, even if we double team him. And then Buffalo with their, they have a franchise quarterback, a really good running back, really just a really good team overall with Sean McDermott, also former Panther coach. Um, really putting them in a good spot. And yeah, it's just rough out here, man. It's rough as a Panthers fan.
It's beyond hard, and it just makes you look at that last game. It's like I don't know what brought the bad energy. I don't know if it was David Moore getting injured on the first play or if it was the missed field goal. It's one or the other. But regardless, that was terrible. Our team is terrible. I don't know what I don't know what's to come in the future. So not much to talk about with the Buzz Boys. Media day was yesterday and today. It's always fresh to see the guys in their uniforms at the beginning or before the season, getting their pro shots done going into the season. But even with them, you don't know what to expect. But we always hope that they could give some type of entertainment and some type of joy for us. But they're kind of in the same boat. You just don't know with any of the Charlotte sports outside of the FC.
Yeah, yeah. Coming up, the season's coming up for our Buzz Boys. I'm looking forward to it. High expectations as always. Well, the past couple of years, I won't say as always with the Hornets, but really, hopefully the injury bug stays away. Hopefully it left Charlotte and went to another city. It just flew away. But, I'm hoping that everybody stays healthy and I think we could at least compete for a play-in spot. I said it last year. I think we've added some really good pieces, especially with Colin Sexton, Con Kneppel. Um, I like how gritty Con Kneppel is because he's not superior in any certain thing. He's kind of like a good glue guy. And, expecting big things out of LaMelo, I think this is a make or break it year for LaMelo. I think if we're, I said it a couple podcasts ago, but if we're below 500 or right at 500, really not looking at like a competitive team at the trade deadline, I think this is the year we trade LaMelo Ball. And I'd hope that doesn't happen. I hope we're, competing and we're not selling at the deadline, but, it's going to be looking like if we have another iffy season, um, in Spectrum Center, it's going to be a bad spot to be in.
Definitely so. I mean, we know the playmaker he can be, and I think we got pieces he could work with. Like you said, we made some moves. We got Colin Sexton who can make things happen. I just want to at least see a full or predominantly full season of LaMelo and Brandon Miller. That's what I want to see because we lost him early last season,
Mhm.
and that impacted us heavily. Miles Bridges, he'll do what he can, but he's not that guy that'll carry the team on his back when somebody's out. Also got Spencer Dinwiddie, veteran, so we'll see how that veteran leadership may go. But we did get Trey Mann back, who's a six man. He does a lot coming off the bench at that 6 man position. I will say that. So hopefully he comes back strong. We extended him, so. But yeah, like you said, big year for LaMelo. If it's not working, it may be the year we move on. Hoping not, because he's brought a lot of joy and entertainment to Charlotte. But you also got to be logical as well.
Yeah. Yeah, one last thing about the Hornets. I saw we released Nick Smith Jr., which I knew someone was going to get cut, especially because we have so many guards on the roster. But he signed with the Lakers, I believe, on a two-way deal. I thought he was
Yep.
really talented. He's still really young. Showed flashes for us, but never really could put it together. And we still have some really good guards on this team, as you mentioned, Trey Mann, Colin Sexton, Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball. That's four right there. Brandon can kind of play the two or the three, but I think we're going to be fine without Nick Smith Jr. I didn't think he was going to get us over the hump, but definitely could be a good young player down the line if he's able to be developed.
I did see that. Wishing him nothing but the best. I mean, for the times he did play, he contributed something. Not like he did nothing for us at all. He was oftentimes in Greensboro or just two-way again, but or like he is in LA right now or going to be. But like you said, I think he has, qualities to be a good player. So hoping nothing but the best for him and hoping for the best with our squad and see what we
Yeah.
can do this year.
Yeah, hoping so. Cam, you got anything else about the Hornets?
That's it, man. Just media days. Just looking forward to opening day next month against the Brooklyn Nets. So,
Yeah, yeah, looking forward to it. Hopefully we can put it together. Well, Buzzpound, as always, we appreciate y'all joining us for season 2, episode 5. We appreciate y'all listening to us yap about the Panthers and our unfortunate season that's unfolding. But as always, you can follow us on both X and Instagram at Buzzpound Pod, and you can find our podcast on both Spotify and YouTube.
like Ian said, we appreciate each and every one of you that listen to us weekly. I know we're not the most exciting podcast due to these teams, but we appreciate each and every one of you that do put in the time. So keep pounding and keep the Hive mentality.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Buzz Pound. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and let us know what you thought of this episode. Until next time, this is the Buzz Pound.
Touchdown!